Good people of YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and I can't believe that it's been 7 months since I got my Spirit Zulu Time 39, which was my first ever Longines, and what an impression it made because it sold me instantly, and I still love it. And now after 7 months, I've come to understand it more, so I'm gonna talk about 3 things I love about it and 2 things I don't like so much about it. And one of those reasons is partly the reason why it's officially for sale for $2,300, but mainly is because I'm just obsessed with my titanium version over here, and I just can't justify owning 2 of them, man. Check out the video for this one if you want more information on that one. But yeah, anyway, more information about the sale down in the pinned comment, and yeah, let's just get into it. My first love is the thing that hit me immediately after seeing it in person for the first time, and that's the finishing and refinement of the watch overall. I mean, it's seriously amongst the best I've ever owned, and that includes Omega, Tudor, Grand Seiko, Rolex, and things like that. So that means that I don't mean refinement for the price. I mean refinement, period. I've always loved the sort of spicy brush finish that Omega uses. It's one of the big things that I love about the Seamaster 300. But here Longines has stepped up and done the same sort of finish, and I love it once again. And actually here it is next to my cousin's Globemaster, and yeah, it's basically the same thing. So that's amazing that Longines has stepped up that much. Also, I cannot get enough of the bevel running along the top side of the case. The transitions from brushed to polished and back to brushed is spot on, and that goes for all brushed and polished surfaces here, like on the bracelet and clasp. And the hands and indices look very well done. The indices are all 3-dimensional, and it's got that awesome bevel going around the dial, which is such a random yet delightful little detail. And the refinement just keeps on going because it's got a very slick proprietary quick release system on the bracelet where you push the button and the bracelet just slides off. And then the cost certified movement is great as well because it's got a 3-day power reserve, a silicone hairspring to make it anti-magnetic, and it's also a Flyer GMT that works wonderfully as well. Oh, and this is a small detail, but the threading of the crown is Omega level. It's buttery smooth. It's the buttery smooth here on my Spirit Zulu Time, the Hydro Conquest GMT, and also the Titanium Zulu Time. So yeah, clearly this is the Longines thing. So this kind of continues on with the refinement aspect, but it feels great on the wrist, and a huge reason why it's so good is because the bracelet is fully articulating, but more importantly, it moves and it feels like silk. I swear, if I was blindfolded and I felt the way the links moved in my hand, I would have guessed that this was a bracelet from something much more expensive. And then the case back is nice and smooth, so when you put everything together, it moves on my wrist without resistance, which is huge for me because I need my watch to be able to move around kind of like this over here. See, it's just the way I am. So yeah, I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again and again and again. It doesn't matter how great a watch is. If it's not comfortable on the wrist, I'm probably not gonna wear it much, if at all. And that's a big reason why I ended up selling the Black Bay 58 Blue many moons ago. And the last love is the aesthetic / design. And this was important for me just because this watch was quite a departure from all my many dive watches by having numerals on the dial. And while I was always drawn to this watch, I was still worried about whether or not I'd actually like it in real life and enough to actually wear it. But the piloty field watch look and feel was a big plus in the end because on top of everything else that I talked about before, it gave me a new experience that I looked forward to, and it felt special as a result. And yeah, this was the first piloty watch that I've actually owned and worn. But on top of that, I just really like the typeface of the numerals on the dial and on the bezel, because on the dial it's not just a copy of a IWC or field watch, and the bezel especially feels like it's its own thing since they didn't use GMT Master 2 or Submariner style numbers, and also they have little squares in between the numbers, which is pretty cool. And finally, I love the proportions here and how it looks on the wrist with the 39mm case and bezel, the size of the dial, the side profile, and most importantly, the 5mm taper of the bracelet, because if it was tapered down, 21 to 18mm, it would have been less ideal. Maybe I would have bought it. And if it was somehow from 21 down to 20, then I guaranteed it wouldn't have even given it a second thought. I would not have bought it because that just would have made the bracelet feel too wide compared to the case size. Because yeah, as a side note, I don't think any watch under 42mm should have a 22mm lug width. I mean, ever. ever. And now for the first dislike, and it's been one that's kind of been with the watch from before, but more so confirmed right now, but that's the matte black dial. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with the dial. It's fantastically executed. It's just that I don't like it when a black dial is lighter than a black bezel, and that's something just naturally happens with matte black dials because they end up just being kind of gray, especially when compared to actually something that's jet black. It just looks off-putting to me, and that's why I just generally prefer matte bezels to make them look a bit lighter to match a matte black dial, or my favorite would be having a gloss black dial because then the dial would be jet black and super contrasty. So yeah, no matter what's going on with the bezel, it will still look okay. But weirdly enough, inside and in many other lights, the dial looks much darker and the ceramic bezel goes full ceramic and it looks, oh my God. Well, that died, so I guess we're just looking a bit more moody right now. Where was I? Oh yeah, but sometimes the ceramic bezel just goes like full on ceramic and it looks reflective gray and it's great. But still in direct sunlight, it still bothers me quite a bit. That said, I was warming up to this combo, but then the titanium Spirit Zulu Time was released and I mean, what a watch, my God. And this is the main reason why I'm selling the steel Spirit Zulu Time. Yeah, the titanium version with the titanium bezel fixes this matte black dial bezel issue thing, and the fact that it's titanium on top of all that is like the biggest cherry on top. And actually, I was debating whether or not to even get the titanium version because I was warming up to the steel version so much, but I decided to give it a go and see it in person and return it if need be. But yeah, that never happened because I'm now like obsessed with it. I can't stop wearing it. Yeah, just spoiler alert for the wrist time. Yeah, it's already broken a bunch of wrist time records and we haven't even gotten to April here. And my final dislike is the lug width and clasp because it's got a 21mm lug width, which means that there are far fewer strap options out there. And a lot of my favorite straps aren't made for 21mm lugs. And if they are made for 21mm lugs, they only taper 1mm down to 20, which on a 21mm strap on a 39mm watch just looks absolutely atrocious. But the thing that really bothers me is that they made such a fantastic quick release bracelet, but I never use it because there just aren't that many straps that I would use it with. If the lug width was 20mm, I'd be using it much more often. And then we have the clasp, and the clasp itself is well made and it functions well, so no complaints there. But I don't know why they didn't just put the quick adjust clasp from the Hodinkee GMT on this, because that would have just made the Spirit Zulu Time like basically unbeatable, and it would have been so close to being perfect for what it is. And then the last thing about the clasp is that I'm not a fan of the giant Longines etched in there. There's no need to write a name that big on a clasp. I mean, just a small wing logo like on the Hodinkee GMT or my titanium Spirit Zulu Time would have been great, although it's not the biggest deal. But all that said, since this bracelet looks and feels so good on the wrist, I can forgive the 21mm lug width because there's not really too much of a need to swap out the bracelet, and the giant Longines on the clasp isn't a big deal because, let's be serious, like how many times are actually looking at the clasp for any amount of time almost, right? So there you have it. Let me know what you think about the Spirit Zulu Time in the comments, and more info about the sale in the pinned comment and probably in the description as well. So yeah, until the next video, good day.